One of the most remarkable things about the Kenya Defense Forces is something that is called the Tonje rules. What is Tonje? Okay, Tonje is somebody's name. Who is this Tonje? And how comes that he came up with something that it will take a long time for any soldier to reach his level of fame? Well, Tonje was the chief of the general staff. We now call it CDF, Chief of the Defense Forces. The first ever Chief of the Defense Forces was Major General Joseph Ndolo. And then there came the 1972 coup attempt, of which he was retired. And when he was retired, President Jomo Kenyatta decided to do away with that rank of Chief of the Defense Forces. You see, being the Chief of Defense Forces, you have a sort of a hand, a control over the three arms of the Kenya Defense Forces. So Jomo Kenyatta removed that position, and the army commander was Major General Jackson Kimeu Mulinge. The Air Force was headed by Lieutenant Colonel Duncan Gishuru, and the Navy was headed by Lieutenant Colonel, I've forgotten his name, but I'll remember as we talk, Kimaru. It was headed by Kimaru. But Kimaru was not a Kikuyu. He was neither a Kalenjin, but he was a Taita. So the army person was a Major General, and the two other arms were headed by Lieutenant Colonels. President Jomo Kenyatta remained as the Commander-in-Chief. So Major General Mulinge continued being the army commander until Kenyatta died. When Moi came, Moi became the Commander-in-Chief, and the other arms, the commanders had risen to the ranks of Brigadier. Colonel first and then Brigadier. By now, Mulinge had risen to the rank of Lieutenant General, and when Mulinge had risen to the rank of, he was getting old, and he was deputized by Major General Sawe. When he was deputized by Major General Sawe, later on, Sawe and Mulinge convinced Moi. I want you to get the point. Sawe belonged to the same tribe or a collection of tribes with the president. I want to say this because in life I've seen, if someone comes from the president's tribe and he genuinely wants to transform anything, it becomes very easy. Remember, Michuki transformed the matatu industry, and Michuki and Kibaki were from the same tribe. So it reached a time when Mulinge, due to his old age, he wanted to retire, but Moi didn't want him to retire. So they came up with a plan that they reintroduced the Chief of Defense Forces, where Mulinge would be the chief of the General Staff. Then it was renamed Chief of the General Staff, and Sawe, Major General Sawe, would be promoted to Lieutenant General and deputize him. That is where Brigadier Mahamud Mohammed was promoted to Major General, and made the army commander. So the hierarchy here was Mulinge was a full general and chief of the general staff. Sawe was a lieutenant general, that is 3 stars, and he was deputy chief of general staff. Brigadier Mahmoud Mohammed was promoted to a major general, 2 stars, and made the army commander. Sawe, remember, he was the president's tribe, was unhappy with being the deputy chief of general staff because that was a desk work. He would do a lot of work and he would hand over papers for Mulinge to sign. There was tension between Sawe. No, Sawe insisted that he be made the army commander. So the president said that he was going to be the army commander and the deputy chief of general staff. Mahmoud, who had tested the army commandership, he was made a deputy army commander. So there was usually that tension between the two, and probably due to that, it was noticed that Mahmoud was getting old. So he was requested to retire. And when the military were in the northwest of Kenya doing military practices, Mahmoud was in Nairobi simply because he was making his clearance so as to go into civilian life. When he was in Nairobi, then the August attempted coup came, and him being the only general around was in charge of the operation. That in Kiswahili we say kuangukia. Then he made sure that Moi retained the seat, and the idea of him retiring was reversed. And then the president saw that he had 2 generals whom he wanted to please. Sawe remained as a lieutenant general, 3 stars, deputy chief of general staff and army commander. At the same time, Mahmoud was elevated to lieutenant general, 3 stars, and made the new Air Force commander. Sawe was not happy. The tension continued. You see, such a thing could not just wipe out the tension between Mahmoud and Sawe. But because Moi was indebted to Mahmoud and Mulinge was retiring, Moi decided that Mahmoud be made the next chief of general staff. When Mahmoud was made the next chief of general staff, you know, Mahmoud all the time, from cadet days up to the time of the August coup, he was in the army. Now he started donning the Air Force uniform. And shortly when he headed the Air Force, which had been renamed 82 Air Force, he used to don in the Air Force army. The Air Force uniform, forgive my term. When he was made the Air Force commander and Mulinge retired, Sawe became the chief of general staff, donning the Air Force uniform. You could see and you could think that Ndolo and Mulinge were army people and Mahmoud was an Air Force person. But the truth is that all of them were army people. Then Mahmoud worked, and you see, Mahmoud being old, and Mahmoud not being from the president's tribe, there was a lot of things which were happening. Tendering or whatever, these people we call tenderpreneurs. It went to be so bad that even meals to the soldiers were of poor quality. And the people who used to supply these things were friends, relatives, or even tribe mates of Moi. Mahmud could do nothing. So he just watched the things happening. But his deputy was an army man called Lieutenant General Daudi Tonje. Daudi Tonje was watching that, and when Mahmud retired, Daudi Tonje now came up. There are several things that Daudi Tonje noticed that were not good, and as I said, coming from the president's tribe made it a bit easier for him. One thing, you'll notice that when Mulinge was made a chief of general staff, by then the two Air Force and Navy were headed by colonels, shortly later brigadiers. So such people, a brigadier is a one-star general. Such a person taking over from as a chief of general staff was a bit of a challenge because of the rank gap. He noticed that all chief of general staff were from the army. He wanted equality. He wanted even a cadet who joins the other two arms to have a dream of one day becoming chief of the defense staff. So he said, why don't we have a situation where it rotates among the three arms? If this time it is this, the next, so that if like the current chief of the defense forces is General Ogola, it means that by the time another airman takes over as the chief of defense forces, the other two, the army and the navy, would have taken over. The last chief of defense force was from the army. So after Ogola completes his term, then a navy officer, a seaman, takes over. That is what he said. The other thing he noticed, look at Mulinge. Mulinge took over from Dolo in 1972. Mulinge retired in 1986. Forget about these other ranks that he was while rising up. But just being the overall of the military had taken over 14 years. He said that doing that, and then again, Mulinge handed over to Mahmud. You see, Mahmud was retiring. Now, counting from 82, when he was supposed to retire, na akaangukia mambo ya coup attempt, up to the time he retired, how many officers have been blocked? So he said, since all officers, commissioned officers, have the same have the equal chances, why don't we have it that if you are made a lieutenant, because those days one could serve as a lieutenant or a captain for 20 or 30 years. He said that you start, let's say, 100 people as lieutenants. After a period of, say, several years, they undertake what is called PROMEX, promotion exams, where out of those 100, around 60 will go to the rank of captain, and 40 will retire from there. Then after a few years as captains, they will also attend a PROMEX, where if they pass, out of 60, maybe 35 will be made majors. And then after some few years, those 35 majors will attend a PROMEX and various courses, and 20 will go to lieutenant colonel. Then, so from those 20, let's say 10 will be colonels. And out of those 20 who are colonels, 8 will be brigadiers. And out of 8, 4 will be major generals. And out of those 4, 2 will be lieutenant general. And then 1 will be a general. So he felt that people blocking others from being promoted would really affect the morale of others. But between me and you, hiyo kuharakishwa such that unamaliza 25 years, you have risen from lieutenant to brigadier, it also makes democracy be firm. If you are a general, like Mulinge, although Mulinge was kind-hearted, but if you are a general for 15 years, you have established your roots in all the military formations, that it would be easy to overthrow the government. Lakini utanotice kwamba in 3 to 4 years Ogolla atakuwa menini, alafu mtu wa Navy achukue, akiwa jana zuba hivyo, somebody wa army anachukua. So Tonje, in a brief, he wanted people to, watu wasikwamie pahali pamoja so long, and he also wanted everybody in the 3 arms to feel equal, because previously it was felt that if you are not an army man, you'd only rise up to service commander. That one is Tonje's explained to a layman. Thank you.